Okay, this is called the Forecourt Interface box. We refer to it as the FCI. This has to do with anything fuel related going from the commander or inside point of sale system out to the dispensers concerning fuel. You can see it's pretty simple. The bottom here has just the one power plug. There is a little tab here that has to be pressed in to remove that and reboot this device if needed. The top portion you can see has 4 different COM ports. Right now, because we have the BRCM, we're only using COM 1, and this COM 2 cable that's plugged in, even though it shows as active, is not being used. That previously used to be for the DCRs, and now the BRCM uses the DCRs. So the only other thing that I can show you on this is these 2 screws here. I'm going to undo these. This is just to take the cover off, and they do stay in place. You won't lose them. So you pull that down a little bit, and then let's see if I can. Yeah, okay. So I pull that down, then you can pull this cover off. So then you can see here that there's only 1 loop board here, but you can have the ability to have 4, which corresponds with your 4 COM ports. So you can see this ribbon cable actually plugs into this one right here on that same loop board, and each dispenser, which has 2 pumps because of both sides, will connect to it. So that's why you have the 2 connections here. I'm at Stockwell, and they only have 4 pumps, hence 2 dispensers. So the other thing I wanted to make note of here is you can see that even though there's nothing connected to 6 of these 8 ports, then you still have lights on them. So obviously lights just indicate the power's getting to it, but the only other thing that we can really tell with this is you see how these flashing lights to the dispensers that are connected kind of run in sequence. It's always left, right, left, right, left, right. That means that it is running properly and communication is taking place, at least for the fuel side of things here. So I guess the only other thing here is if you have multiple loop boards in here, which is a real good possibility because the DCR one is usually mounted from in the past, but it's no longer being used, we can start swapping things out if needed if we have a loop board problem. So power supply is down here. I don't think I've ever changed one of those out, but yeah, typically it's either COM ports or loop boards that we mess with in the FCI. And the only way I know of to make sure that it's getting power is by looking at these loop board indicators. Okay, I wanted to make note of a different FCI box here, just so you guys can see one that has more to it than the previous store I had a video of. Anyway, the same kind of thing. This has got Verifone right in the middle. This is called the FCI, or the Forecourt Interface box. Forecourt is basically anything that's outside under the canopy, and since this is Verifone related, it's only going to typically have something to do with your Verifone controlled pumps. So if you have a COM data site, it will not control anything on those pumps. So just a couple things to point out here. On one side, you have your power. Most of these have this little yellow nub here. You have to push that down in order to remove it if you need to kill power to it. On the other side, you have these 4 COM ports, and if you can see there, that's COM 2. This one under there is COM 1, and then you have COM 3 and COM 4. The reason that we have 3 out of the 4 connections here, let me get this open. Okay, so just these are 2 thumb screws. There is a Phillips head screwdriver in the middle of that if it's too tight. And as soon as you get these, then it will go down this direction. And then there is a kind of a makeshift hinge down here. You can see that. So when you put the screws back in, you have to lift it up a little bit, as you can see. All right, so if I put that cover aside, you can see this has 4 what we call loop boards. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure if that matches up with the comms, but the way to tell that is this is COM 1. You follow this ribbon cable, and yeah, that goes to this one. So this would be the one that's connected to COM 1. And you can see Midwest had labeled these. You have CRIND, which is basically like your DCR. And then you have, CRIND gas, so that's this one. Up top, you have pump gas. And then pump diesel, CRIND diesel. So mainly all you need to know is before we had EMV on the pumps, as far as the EMV chip readers, this is solely what we used. We had one loop board that controlled the fuel side of things and one loop board that controlled the DCR side of things. As you can see, this one has no lights on it because we don't have any power connected to it. There's no need. So why is there no control for the CRIND side on the gas, which is basically, that's your main, I'm at Hickman here, so it's your main 12 pumps. The reason being is as soon as we got the BRCM box, which we'll have another video on, that basically took over the control of the DCR, and it's no longer needed on the FCI box. All we need on FCI is fuel, as long as you have EMV readers and they're IP addressable on the pumps. Now, the reason that we have 4 boards in here is, like I said, these are capable of doing the first 12 pumps that we have at Hickman here. These 2, the reason that you're separated is because they are controlling the separate diesel island pumps, and there's 3 over there. So the one way you can tell that is you see these top 3, how there's kind of a sequence on those blinking lights, and then the rest of these are just solid, meaning they got power. But if you can tell that sequence, well, it's kind of hard to tell here. But anyway, that just means that those pumps are communicating, and this is the pump diesel, so this is the fuel side. The CRIND, I'm not getting anything here. Again, I think they've updated these pumps, so I think they have EMV readers on them now, and that's why you're not seeing any sequence going on here. I don't think we need power to this anymore, but I'll have to verify that at the end of the video. The same thing is true here for the pump gas board. So this is the 12 pumps, and you can see this is by dispenser, so it's not by pump. The reason that you have 3 over here is because the diesel pumps are double-sided. So when somebody pulls up to one of the pumps there, they can use either that side or the opposite one that's kind of meant as a secondary pump for a lot of these semis that have tanks on either side. Now, your regular pumps do not have that. So you can see of the ones that are connected, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dispensers. 1 pump on each side equals 12 pumps. And that's why we have that many lit. The other thing here is you have this 2-wire, the red and black. That is the power to it. It's coming from the power supply, which is on this side. You can see you have all your power cables coming out there as well as up top. So you have 2 for that top side, 2 for the bottom. If I was to unplug this, it would kill power to this loop board. I don't typically do that by loop board itself unless I'm going to remove one. Typically, I just take this cable and unplug the entire box, because if I'm going to reboot it, I might as well do the whole entire thing. I forgot to mention here, I'll do it on this one that's not plugged in, but you can see this is an unused connection for the 2-wire on this case it would be each one of the pumps, and on this one it would be each one of the DCR connections. So you can see they have these wire nutted to this one here. It is not lit up, but it is wire nutted to something, so that's why I think that they're no longer in use.
since they put EMV readers on those diesel pumps. Otherwise, you would see a sequence on this as well. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to point that out, and that this connection anyway is, all you have to do is, I don't know if I can point it out there. Yeah, so if I can zoom in, you just kind of lift that up or press that down just enough not to bend the pins. But if you can see here, there's a little ridge on that spot, so that way when you plug it back in, if I line that up there, then it snaps into place, and it doesn't let go easily unless you intentionally try to get it off. It doesn't fall off or slide or anything like that. It's just to keep it in place, so that way you don't have a disconnection.